Dr. Robinson?
I would like to make a motion to reconsider the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Andrews. Discussion? None. All in favor? All opposed? So we're back to the consent agenda. Dr. Robinson?
Yes, I want to take SSEA 5, which was the Acceleration Academy, off of consent and place DS1, which is the amendment to the contract with Urban Schools Human Capital Academy, on consent.
All right, everybody understand what the recommendation was? All right. I think it's it.
Is it 4?
4.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So SSEA 4 off consent,
Correct.
and
Yes, she's
Okay.
correct, it's 4. And DS1 on consent. Mhm.
DS1 on consent. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So I'll give you a chance to refresh your computers if you have it.
One more minute, please.
All right, I will read the good cause things while y'all are doing that. We had some items on the agenda for good cause. First one was 81, a resolution. A good cause exists for adding this item to the agenda in order to address very current concerns expressed by vulnerable students and their families and the need for immediate assurances and actions before any situations covered by the resolution occur. The other ones were P2 and P4. Good cause exists for adding these items to the agenda to allow these positions to be filled as soon as possible. And P3 was a personnel agenda. Good cause exists for adding this item so that employees who are recommended can start their positions as soon as possible. Our first new business item is AD1. Dr. Avosa.
AD1 is a resolution to promote the welcoming and inclusive schools for all students and families.
Is there
I
a
recommend-
motion? Oh,
No, go ahead.
motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Andrew. In fact, it looks like there was second by everybody. So let the record show a second for that. Any discussion? Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank all of our speakers that came today. I was very moved by your comments, and I just wanted to say personally that both of my parents were immigrants, and I remember being a small child and worried that people would figure out that we weren't supposed to be here. And so it is my joy to vote for this tonight. I can't wait to be able to have that moment, and I just want to thank our staff for putting this together. This means a lot, especially coming from a big county like this, to recognize our students and how much we want them to be safe when they're in our schools. That means a ton. So thank you, everyone.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, and I'd like to thank all the speakers for being here. This is so very important, and I'd like to say to the chair, to the superintendent, that we heard a lot of comments tonight from our speakers about how we can take this to the next level and include some more meat on this resolution. If not just the resolution, but just some more items to what we need to do to make sure that our students and our families are protected. And I heard a lot of good comments about some things that we could do as a district, and I'm going to ask the chair, through the chair to the superintendent, if we can kind of make note of some of those things and put a little bit more power to this as we move forward with our students and our schools and our families.
Mrs. Brill?
Thank you, and I wasn't going to comment, but since we're sharing our personal experiences and feelings, I just wanted to tell you, I know my husband's out there watching. Hi, honey. My husband's an immigrant, and my stepchildren are immigrants, so this was also very near and dear to my heart. Thank you for coming out, and I'm just really very proud of this superintendent and this board tonight.
So I need to say something because I came into this meeting on this particular item with a tremendous amount of apprehension that I was afraid what this was going to turn into was not a comment about the welfare of children and their families, but this would become a political discussion. And I have to thank every one of the speakers who spoke tonight, because you focused, I think, 100% on the children of this county. And I think what happens with this particular resolution is that we have the opportunity to reaffirm what we believe in Palm Beach County has been the policy for a long time. If any of you up here remember Dr. Joseph Orr, who was an assistant superintendent, I was principal at the time, and Dr. Orr sent out a bulletin that essentially addressed this issue, and that has to be, Mrs. McQuinn, maybe 25 years ago at least. And we have lived by that as a county. So I want to thank the speakers and everybody and the board, because I think we were able to keep this from being a political conversation to one that's really the business that we have of dealing with the lives of children. So I appreciate that. Any other comments? We'll call a question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item, CAO 10.
Next item, I recommend the board approve the resolution to train all high school students in hands-only CPR, which is supported by the American Heart Association.
Is there a motion? Motion by Dr. Robbins, second by Mr. Barbieri. Mrs. Whitfield, I think you pulled this item.
Thank you so much. I'm also thrilled about this one. This one was something I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone before I got to my question. I would like to thank the American Heart Association Palm Beach County Market Board. They've put a lot of effort into bringing this item to Palm Beach County, and I think it really does send a message. I would like to live in the place where you have the best chance of survival following an incident where you would need CPR. So I think we can beat out Seattle, and I want to beat out Seattle. So Seattle, you're going down. And I just wanted to let you know. I'd also like to thank Keith Oswald and Eric Stern and Diana Fetterman for all the time you put into putting together this item, because this means a lot to me. And I'd like to thank Dr. Shepke for showing up today. And finally, most importantly, Dr. Avosa, because he has been contributing to supporting health initiatives in the American Heart Association's mission since he got here, and I think it's a really important one, so I'd like to thank everyone for that. So getting back to the actual resolution, one of the things that I think would give it a little bit more meat is we actually have it written in there that it's for high school curriculum, specifically science curriculum, but I believe there's a plan for a specific classroom that would be taught in a specific class. Could you talk about that briefly?
Yes, we are going to be adding this into the biology class,
Okay.
so we can clarify that.
So yeah, could we add in as an amendment to the resolution a little bit more specificity on where the class would take place? Would that be okay? Could I make that into an amendment to this motion? Anyone want to nod?
Mr.
Not
Shaw?
nod? I have a second part to the question too.
Yeah,
So.
as staff, we have no problem with that. I just don't want to box ourselves in, because there may be other opportunities for kids, whether it's through courses that we have now or courses we may have a year or two from now. But I'm certainly okay with saying that it's in biology. I also know that there's opportunities maybe to weave it into other places as we move forward. But, I mean, I'm open to either.
Ms. Rico, is there any prohibition if we pass this that would allow staff to be able to implement it the way they want to?
No, I think the implementation would be
I
appropriate.
know that's a risky thing to say. Mrs. McQuinn.
I want to refer to what Dr. Avosa said. Boxing it into biology may actually shut out some students who are in very specialized programs. So we want to make sure, and I know you've thought that through, that we're not doing that. Ooh, either or. I'm sorry, I just heard an either or over here.
I believe that the idea is that that the AHA organization has grant funding that is tied to our ability to tie it to a graduation requirement class specifically. And since science isn't really, it's just a broad category, I think that's why we would like to have it tied to a class in particular. But if there's a way to write that would be more amenable, please let me know.
Yeah, I think after further conversations with American Heart Association, that if we did tie it into specifically biology, and/or if a student doesn't take that course, to the course that they take, would support additional grant writing to support the equipment needed to carry this out.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask a question because I really just don't know that right now. In Florida, is PE still considered a required course?
Not necessarily. So we looked at that too, and that biology for that alignment would be the best option.
All right, well, if board is okay, what about if we say aligned to the curriculum including biology? I mean, I just what I'm afraid of is you may have special education students and other students who may not have access to a biology course per se, and I just don't want to exclude anybody. So maybe we can just give us, if the board's okay, give us the opportunity to write the language in such a way that'll include biology so we don't risk dollars, potential dollars, but also not exclude kids who might not otherwise take a course like that.
Okay.
Okay. I
Okay,
can
I
live
see
with
a
that.
bunch of yeses on that. Any other discussion? We'll call the question. Dr. Robinson.
This is actually a request for follow-up information. Can you just give us AED information? Like how many AEDs we have, how many people we have trained and to adults, and how they are, what's the word deployed? Like, so at one point there was an issue about making sure we had an adult trained with using the AED at every athletic event, so forth. That's the information I'd like. Thank you.
Mrs. Whitfield?
Just one more question. I was concerned about the dissemination to principals. I just wanted to hear kind of how principals would hear about this happening so that they would participate.
Yeah, we've been talking to principals about this in different meetings, that we were going to be working this in, and then eventually building this into our student progression plan, and that we were building this requirement into the student, into that coursework because of the alignment. So,
Okay,
yeah, so
great.
if we
Thank
can
you.
bring this back with an amendment to the language next time.
And Dr. Christensen just reminded me, upwards of 95% of our students actually do take biology. So let us just take a look at what that means. I just want to make sure it's all inclusive.
Mrs. McQuinn?
And it does say under B that the superintendent will designate a district official who's going to be responsible for ensuring compliance. I'm good with that. I like that.
Any other questions? Call the question on this. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is P2. Dr.
P2, job descriptions. I recommend the board approve the job descriptions as submitted.
There a motion? Motion by Dr. Robinson, second. Second by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. P3,
P3, I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as submitted.
motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Brill. Any discussion? Dr. Vosa, nobody to introduce on this one tonight?
No, sir, we introduced the individual from West Tech
Okay.
earlier.
We'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is PC, or
P4.
P4.
P4, I recommend the board approve the job descriptions as submitted.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Brill. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. PC2.
PC2, I recommend the board approve the owner-architect agreement with Harvard Jolly Incorporated to provide design services to modernize the Gold Coast Community School campus to house the adult education. Request for proposal 17C010R, project number 0331-8402 for $699,139, and authorize the superintendent and board chair to finalize and sign all required documents as necessary.
Dr. Robinson. Oh, we need a motion. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Mrs. Brill. Dr. Robinson.
Okay, thank you. So my question has to do with MWBE processes. So, and I appreciate staff's response. I asked the question about the 15% that the document says will be a minimum of 15% MWBE participation. and staff provided the information on the companies that will make up that 15%. But what I did not see and what is a concern to me is it appears that this type of information does not go into the contract. And maybe I'm mistaken, but I did not see it in the contract, and I don't recall seeing it in contracts in the past. So I'm just concerned that how do we hold somebody accountable to something that's not in their contract?
Dr. Vosa.
Ms. Rico, do you have staff that can respond to that? Or is this something that we need to bring back to the board?
They're saying bring it back.
Okay.
Dr. Fenoy, do you have Ms. Andrewen here today? I don't know that I saw her.
Yes, but that's more with purchasing, so we'd have to bring that information back about the actual contract language.
But excuse me, I can briefly answer what I think you're getting at, which is it's embedded in the RFP. Our current contract documents, and Ms. Hahn can correct me if I'm wrong, relate back and incorporate by reference. The contract relates back and pulls in the RFP requirements. So that's how you enforce it, because it does actually become part of the contract. We are undergoing currently a revision of our contracts for this purpose, to pull everything into the actual one contract document, so you don't have that concern. But that is one of the things that we are doing. One of the exercises we are doing is pulling those RFP requirements into the body of the contract, but there's still that legal enforceability because the contract pulls in all the RFP requirements. So it is actually part of it. It's just you have to take a few hops to get there.
Okay, may I follow up?
Dr.
So
Robinson.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding. So you mean the response to the RFP, the information in the response to the RFP, such as Firm A, Firm B, Firm C, will be...
Right. So as I understand it, the contract documents in the actual contractual agreement refer back to the requirements of the RFP, the bid proposal, the general conditions, the special conditions, the insurance requirements, and all the other things they need to sign. Right, Holly? Okay.
Okay, all right. So then it will be a separate question for another day, how we manage, because I continue to hear the stories of firms that were listed on the response to the RFP as a MWBE participant, and then somehow magically, when it's time to do the work, that they're either not doing the level of work that they were told that they were going to do, or they just not doing any work, and so in my simple view of this, it was because it was not in the contract. Okay.
No, I think, so moving forward, this will be a function of the Office of Diversity and Business Practices. It's not that it wasn't in the contract, we didn't provide the accountability measures, meaning we actually went to the site to verify what they said was happening was actually happening. And so moving forward, the new expectation is that once that contract is written and agreed upon, then we will verify those what has been stated. And if not, then there's a level of process that allows for somewhat of a penalty for not being in compliance with what you said you were going to do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, we'll call a question. All in favor, all opposed, motion carries 7-0. Next item is SSEA 3.
I recommend the board approve the agreement with Palm Beach Psychiatric and Addiction, I think it says Addition Center. Sorry, it should be Addiction. It says Addiction Center, PA, effective April 20, 2017 through June 30th, 2021, and authorize the superintendent or designee to sign all documents and contracts related to the agreement which are required for implementation.
Is there a motion? Motion by Mrs. Brill, second by Mrs. Whitfield. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. So this, I just can't make myself support this. So as it stands, and I appreciate conversation with staff to express my concerns and the attempts to reassure me. But this is, and tell me I'm wrong. So this is being brought forward just like every other agreement at every other place for our medical our kids in the medical fields, right? But this is a special type of place, right? And, you know, and even confidentiality restrictions are much tighter in this field. But even beyond that, I'm concerned, I'm concerned at what our students might see. And I understand we're trying to prepare them for the real world, and this is part of the work that they apparently are seeking to do. But I just need to know that this has been really thought through about not only what additional preparation the students would have before they walk into such a place, but also what above and beyond preparation the facility has had about bringing our students in there,
Yeah.
you know?
So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask staff to give you a response to, have we provided the partners with our concerns about, look, these are kids that are under the age of 18 going into a center that in many ways has folks there, clients that are, you know, going through either psychiatric or addiction issues?
Go for it. I appreciate this question, and you and I had a great discussion about this because the concerns are legitimate and real. We also know that this industry is growing significantly. This is a doctor's office. It's not a residential, which was one of the first questions I had. I also spoke with Dr. Emma Banks, who originated this agreement. And every one of our medical agreements with our doctors or our medical facilities has a separate orientation. For example, the one at JFK is 189 pages, JFK Hospital, and the students actually have to take a test at the end of it to make sure they pass it and understand that. In speaking with Dr. Banks, I felt as though that myself, along with Dr. Benavente and Dr. Banks, should create the environment and the orientation for the students. We are protected legally through so many of our contracts and so many stipulations in it. But again, this is special, and in listening to you the other day, I agree on a lot of that. But I also agree we do have to expose our 17 and 18-year-olds, and that's who will generally be there, to some of the realities of what medicine could be. Again, it's a doctor's office. The doctor will be with the patients or with the students at all times. They'll never be alone. They'll be 2 by 2. The teacher does go out and monitor this, but I feel that meeting with Dr. Banks and meeting with Dr. Benavente as well as the medical facility, making sure we are protecting our children from not only privacy, safety, and the patient's privacy.
Dr. Robinson?
Okay, that's nice, but I'm just telling you, because I can reflect upon experiences in medical school when I was older, supposedly more mature than these students would be, right? Where basically I got worked. But I was manipulated by some patients, and actually on several occasions before I wised up, right? So, in brief interactions. So I'm aware that they're not going to be like in the room by themselves treating people and all that, right? I just don't know if we have the same level of worry and also the fact that my husband is an addiction psychiatrist. I hear stories, okay? I'm just telling you. I just don't know that we have worried about this enough for me to support.
Yeah, Mrs. Andrews?
Just a clarification, did you say the doctor would be there at all times when the students are there, or?
The doctor will be there along with the office manager, to make sure that the students are never alone without the adult in the room or in the office. Most of this will be about the running of a doctor's office because there's so much business enterprise involved in the medical academies, but there will be no time when the patient is with the student at any time.
Any other questions? A real quick one. Since this agreement impacts 2 of our charter schools, are we doing supervision and monitoring to ensure that the same things that you expect of our regular schools are being done with those charter schools?
Yes, because at least one of them comes under we are the LEA for Inlet Grove, and we are funded by Perkins. We do have to monitor that, absolutely. With the same idea that teachers do have to be out there in the field with the students.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Dr. Robinson voting against. Dr. Vosa, SSEA 4.
I recommend the board approve the termination of the contract with Acceleration Academies LLC entered into June 16, 2016.
Your motion? Motion by Mrs. McQuinn, second by Mrs. Whitfield. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. I just really, what I think of as drop-back-in academies, has been a long-standing issue in Palm Beach County, just trying to meet the need, just trying to retrieve students that have dropped out and then, had the aha moment where they said, I want to finish my high school education. So I just want to know how we're going to meet this need.
Well, we agree, and I think I heard loud and clear, especially by elected officials in West Palm Beach, Boynton, Riviera Beach, saying, look, we've got a slew of 18 to 22-year-olds we're not seeing meeting their full potential. We agree. So what I'd like to do, if the board's okay with that, I'd like to bring Dr. Ruiz back in the next 4 or so weeks to share with the board what we have available now and what we want to have available in August, okay? Because we do see the need. We also want to make sure that we're following all the state procedures with FTE, et cetera. And I think that you'll be pleased to know that we've come up with some other options.
All right. Mrs. Andrews?
I just want to say I did spend quite a bit of time talking with Dr. Avosa about this school. And I just want to be really clear, as I listen to the speakers, I love those students, and I definitely want to make sure our children have a place. But it's obvious, Dr. Avosa, based on what was said to me, that there were many problems with this program. So I just want to make sure that we're on record so that the public will know that this wasn't just an ordinary termination of the contract. There were some issues here at the school.
That's right.
Mrs. Brill?
Thank you. And, I recall visiting Worthington High School and also Quantum, which are both charter schools, but we refer dropout students up through age 21. I mean, there's a difference. These children were being served through 22, I think. But those are also options that are out there, and those are schools that are serving the children's needs.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That concludes our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Mr. Barbieri. All in favor, all opposed. We stand adjourned.